One of my goals of this year was to get more hands-on with the mechanical movement of watches, which is why the DIY Watch Club kits is the perfect introduction for me into this sort of realm of getting hands-on with these watches and these watch movements. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I'm talking about watches, and I'm talking about more than just watches. I'm talking about all the things and all the elements of a watch and putting one of them together. Because I actually consider myself a relatively handy person. I like to make things, I like to build things, I like to create things, but when it has come to the thought behind pulling a watch apart or modifying it or changing it or taking crystals off or putting hands on, I have to admit I felt a little bit nervous. I felt a little bit nervous because it's something that I haven't done before. And when I do things, when I make things, I'm pretty good at making bigger things. Making very, very small things tends to be a little bit harder for me, which is why I sort of haven't done it up until this point. But when DIY Watch Club reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to experience one of our kits? I suddenly felt much more secure about this idea of doing this. I almost felt like my hand was being held and I was being sort of walked along this pathway of creating a watch. And that is exactly what DIY Watch Club does. It gives you the watch components, but it also gives you the tools, but it also gives you all the information and videos and step-by-step process about how to do this project. And at the end of that project, you end up with a really cool watch that you have picked out. So thank you very much to DIY Watch Club for sending me out this watch kit. You would have seen that sponsored icon pop up earlier because of that. And you will also then find a link to their website down in the description of this video. Now, this is going to be one of those videos that is perhaps going to be a little bit more tricky to make because I'm trying to look down and do something, but also film it. So I do apologize if this ends up being a little bit all over the place. I'm going to try and make it as seamless as possible. But for now, let's flip this around. And with a little bit of trepidation, I'm going to make a watch. Well, I'm not exactly sure what I was expecting from the Do-It-Yourself Watch Club, but I wasn't expecting something as substantial and as good quality as this. The case itself, the thing that it comes in is like a suitcase. It's absolutely lovely. And when you open it up, wow, check out what is inside. I knew you got all the bits and pieces that sort of came with it, as well as the tools, which I was actually looking forward to having. And I was looking forward to seeing what came with it, but I didn't expect it to be this quality. I didn't expect it to be presented this well. So what are you getting with it? Well, tools like a little puffer. I'm actually very glad to get that. I'm going to be using that in the future. Nice little eyeglass thingy there, whatever that is called, I can't remember. The little pad to actually put the movement and to work your way through the project. And then of course you're going to get all the bits and pieces that you're going to be using. Here's the movement in here. Here's the case that I have selected for this particular project, which I think is actually going to be very, very cool. Check that out. It's already got the crown and the crown stem in there. See-through case back. Bits and pieces. This one comes with a leather strap. There are lots of different variations, obviously, so it really depends on which one you pick, depending on what you get from it. Lift this up. We've got more tools in here. I do like tools, so I'm actually just excited just about the tools, let alone actually a watch as well. Some really nice stuff in there. Nice to have a case back opener. I don't have one of them, so that's cool to have as well. But it keeps going. I think there's something else in under here. Yep, something else under here. I think there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. What have we got going on? More tools, and there's like a holder there. More screwdriver type things. Yep, yeah, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. What I can say, and what I absolutely will be saying about this as I go along, is just the sheer quality is really noticeable once you sort of open this case and have a look inside. Now, inside here, we're going to have a whole bunch of bits and pieces. I've opened this up before. This has lots and lots of little bits and pieces that's to be used. There's another case around here somewhere which has even more things. I think it's over here. This one here actually has a lot of bits and pieces, and it's really sort of divided up nicely into these little sleeves. And this one, I've actually got the additional sort of extra bit of a customized rotor as well. So I'm going to have a watch with a rotor which says Watching James on the back. So that's kind of cool. Now, I was trying to consider how I'm going to build this watch in this sort of light box environment, and I decided that it's going to be too hard. So instead, I'm going to move this over to my desk, set up the cameras, and I'm going to build whilst sitting at my desk. I hope that it looks okay. So let's move to my desk. So this is actually going to be a bit of a challenge, I think. It's going to be exciting, interesting, possibly a little bit frustrating, but let's see how we go. I'm going to have to skip forward as I go along because some of this is obviously going to take me a little bit longer than I expect. And I've also got my computer next to me here with all the videos ready to go so that I can watch them if I need to learn a little bit more. With this stuff here, you get all the things, all the bits and pieces, all the tools. You get the finger cots. You get obviously all the other little bits and pieces, the blower as well. Multiple hands as well, which is really good, and I'm really glad you get sort of almost like two sets of hands of almost everything, because if you bugger this one up, well then at least you get a bit of a spare try at it. But I get the feeling that I might make some mistakes here. Let's see how we go. I've had to move to this area because it's going to make it easier for me, so I apologize if the camera shakes because, well, I'm going to be leaning on this table. I may occasionally stop to watch a video. These guys here come with a whole set of videos of how to do all this stuff, instructions on how to do it, how to go along, how to sort of get through this process. So it is a step by step. I've watched them all. It seems relatively straightforward with a few hard components to it, but let's see how I go. I've also made some notes, so hopefully let's see what happens. Let's see if this actually works or not. So let's start with the finger cots. It says you need to put it on your non-master hand, which is my left hand. I've got relatively big fingers, so let's see how this goes. Oh, that seems to work okay. Okay, that's quite interesting. So the first thing we're going to do is sort of pull apart the case itself. The case comes like this one here without the bezel insert, see-through case back as well. And we're going to use this little pad for everything. So what's the next thing to do? We need to unscrew the crown. Okay, first thing, unscrew crown. Okay, here we go. We're already into this process. I'm going to start skipping forward, I think. There we have the crown. Let's not lose this gasket, shall we? Let's put that aside. Taking out the chapter ring and the movement holder. So now we have the movement here. It's in this little case. Comes with its own little crown and stem. This is the NH34, the GMT. So I've made my life a little bit more difficult by adding another hand to work on. So the first thing, let's get it out of here, shall we? And we've got to be very careful with this not to touch it in certain ways. So we're going to install the dial first, I believe. And what we have to do is use this little washer thing. This has a sandwich dial, this one here. So there's two parts to the dial. Actually rather excited about this in the fact that I get to then keep all these tools afterwards. I do like tools. Now, second piece of advice, I'm already here, or the first piece of advice, don't drink too much coffee before you're doing this, because you don't want your hands to shake, and I do like my coffee. Oh, there we go. Sandwich dial is put together. That took a little bit more effort than I was expecting. There's these two little pins on it that you have to sort of get into the right spots and then sort of squish it down. And because it is also a sandwich dial, that made that an extra little bit difficult. I've also put the case holder in there as well, the holder of the actual movement, or the movement holder, sorry. Apologise if I use the wrong terms for this one. I'm probably going to be using the wrong terms a lot. Now believe this is a specific GMT tool that I'm going to be using to install this hand, a GMT tool hand installer. I'm sure that's what it's called. Alright, so the GMT hand is on, it's pointed at the 12, I've come all the way around to ensure that it's sitting right. I've then sort of looked up the side to ensure that it's not touching the dial. Seems to have worked. Let's see how we go. Let's keep going, shall we? Now we're going to put the hour hand on. So, for the hours and the minute hands, 2 of each and 2 of the second hand as well. Now the second hand must be hard because there's 2 in there and then there's another 2. So we've got 4 second hands. So yeah, not looking forward to doing the second hand apparently. Our hand is on loosely. Now we're going to test it. So the problem is I've got the hour hand is basically touching the GMT hand. So I'm going to do a little thing that they showed you how to do and use a piece of plastic. Scoop up the hand and then just bend it up a little bit. So now we can test to see if this is working. Let's go around again. Working good. I think we can now test the quick set as well. 1 minute hand. Getting there, yeah, getting there. This is a little bit more fiddly than I was expecting, I have to admit. If you look at the layering of the hands, they look good. I think I'm getting close to doing the second hand, which apparently is the hardest one, which is a bit of a concern and a bit of a worry. Let's see how we go. Hey, that's working. Look at that, it's a ticking. Well, I think we are getting there. Slowly. That second hand was a pain. Yes, okay, I was expecting that to be a pain, and it's even more of a pain than I expected. Next is about cleaning, because I think we're getting actually pretty close to being finished now, somewhat. Next we're going to put the bezel insert on. I think now it's time to put it into the case. Do a bit of cleaning first as well. Get in here. It's getting there, it's looking like a watch. Now, we've got something extra special now to add to this. We've got a custom rotor. So DIY Watch Club is now doing custom rotors. And you can see there, if you look nice and closely, it says Watching James. So we're going to remove this old rotor and put on a custom Watching James rotor. Comes with the screwdriver required. Okay, time to put the gasket back in. Felt that go nicely onto that gasket, which is cool. And we've almost got a watch. So bezel insert is probably the last thing that we're going to do other than put it onto its strap. So getting close. Here's the bezel insert that came with it. Stainless steel, which is kind of cool. Now, any alignment issues with this watch are all going to be down to my skills or lack thereof. There you go, Seiko, that's how you do it. You line it up correctly. Let's have a look. Ah, close enough. Not perfect, but it's close enough. Let's check that bezel action. Yeah, pretty good. That's lined up okay. And that hour's change, or the date change there isn't perfect. Let's go around one more time. So it changes a little bit before midnight, but that's okay. Now, nice leather strap. Let's see how this looks on this leather strap, shall we? There we go. Check that out. Check out the watch. One little sticker on the back to take off, and then we can stick it on wrist and see how it feels. Well, there we go. I've made my very first watch by the Do-It-Yourself Watch Club. Cool watch. So here we have the end result of the build. Now that was a rather fun, interesting, but slightly frustrating experience, but that probably has more to do with me than the watch itself. It's actually a really nice quality watch. I'm rather surprised. It's you know, I picked this particular version, so I knew I was going to like the look of it, but I probably wasn't expecting the quality of the case to be quite as good. Nice brushing on the sides, nice polished chamfer edge there, obviously a stainless steel sort of bezel there. Bezel action is nice. It almost feels a bit like a Seiko, I think, matching in with that NH34 movement, so that's nice. And how cool is to have the customized rotor on there, or a customized rotor as an option. I think that's really nice. Strap's nice too. Quick release spring bars. Nice hardware. I think it looks fantastic. And it's very comfortable on the wrist. I think it's a good looking watch. I don't have many sort of white dials in my collection, so it's kind of nice to have something a little bit different. And this is probably my favorite leather color as well. This sort of not tan, but it's not dark brown, somewhere in between. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Hope you enjoyed seeing this build. I certainly enjoyed doing it. Thanks again to DIY Watch Club for supplying this, because it's been fantastic to be able to enjoy and have some hands-on experience with the behind the scenes of watches. And if you enjoyed this video, guys, maybe you want to check this one out next.